We're going to have a couple of proclamation presentations. If I could get those that are going to receive Fire Prevention Week, come on down this way. I'd appreciate it. And then right behind it's going to be Code Compliance Month. As they are making their way down, both of these presentations, the timing of them is good. Chief, hopefully I can get through this. I know. Last week we had an incident here in town, so it highlights the fact that fire prevention, what we do to prevent fires in our community, but also code compliance. We had a structure fire, I think it was a house trailer fire in our ETJ, so they don't have to follow under our rules and regulations, compliance, those types of things. But we had some difficulty in that fire, in that 4 of our firefighters were injured. 3 of those firefighters sustained some injuries, were released from the hospital that evening. But we had 1 firefighter that came within seconds of possibly losing his life, and is in the hospital now with multiple burns on his body, as well as a broken femur that he has had surgically repaired. And so it is important to know that the timing of this in this month is that we do the right thing for all involved. It's not just, it could have been someone home. Fortunately, no one was home. Had somebody been home, there's no telling what would have happened inside that structure. But the fact that we have men and women in a great department that run to that to put it out and rescue, one of those members could have lost his life last week. And so it's a little somber that we do this, but at the same time, want to highlight the importance. So no better way to highlight the importance of these 2 weeks and this month than to talk about what happened. So with that, Chief, whereas the city of Pearland, Texas is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Pearland, whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. Whereas home fires kill more than 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, and the departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020. Whereas 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of those fires resulting from unattended cooking. More than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fires injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves. Whereas Pearland residents should turn pot handles towards the back of the stove, always keep a lid nearby when cooking, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around the stove, oven, and other things that could get hot, watch what they heat, and set a timer to remind them that they are cooking. Whereas first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. Residents that are responsive to public education measures are better able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. The 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, cooking safely starts with you. Pay attention to fire prevention. Effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Now, therefore, I, Kevin Cole, by the vow vested in me as the mayor of the city of Pearland, do hereby proclaim the week of October 8th through the 14th, this week, 2023, as Fire Prevention Week, and just given this today under my hand and seal. And again, big and vivid reminder of what happened last week, of why this is so important. Chief, do you have anything to add?
I don't know how I could top that. You hit all the marks. I just want to say that we have a very prolific and very active fire marshal's office, as well as code enforcement, and we'll have that in just a couple of moments. But it is, this last week has been a harrowing experience. That there's a lot of positives that have come through that, and one of those is the outpouring of support that we've had, literally from Connecticut to California, within the fire service, and that hadn't stopped within this community, within this municipality, our city staff, the outreach that we've had. The day of the fire itself, to have the needs that we had, that we needed to reach out to other departments to have needs taken care of without hesitation, that was all done. And that just leads to the fact that this is a great city to work for. It's a family environment, just like it is within the fire service. We talk about it being a family. It really is. We live a third of our lives together, and it makes this even a more difficult situation when you have somebody that has these injuries. But our crews on scene that made the rescue on Thursday, I could not be more proud of our personnel and how they acted, not only from when the emergency call came in to making the designation they did operationally, to work that fire the way they did, to have the Mayday procedure they did, to rescue him in less than 45 seconds, probably closer to 30 seconds. And he probably didn't have another 15 or 20 seconds before his mask failed. So it all worked out perfectly, to our medics getting him to Memorial Hermann all the way through the process, our peer support team, the job they've done and continue to do to check on the mental welfare of our firefighters and everybody in our organization. Because even though this is Fire Marshal's office and code, they work with all our men and women out in operations. And so they have that attachment and that connection with them. So it's very important to make sure our mental well-being is being addressed, and they're doing an outstanding job. And I appreciate your support and the support of council, city manager's office throughout this. It's been wonderful.
Very good. Let's take a picture. I think we've got, he's going to arrange you now. So there we go. All right. Y'all stay up here for round two. All right. All right. Kind of along the same lines, City of Pearland is probably one of the few cities that has code enforcement as a part of its fire department. Very few cities do that. But when you really look and understand what code enforcement does on a day in and day out basis, it really dovetails well with what our fire department, truly does. It's more than just weed control, isn't it? I always make that joke because so many people think all they do is run around looking for weeds, but they don't. Far more, far more things from a code compliance standpoint. Codes that, if done wrong, lead to fires. So many things, building structures that you can't get in and out of if it was to be on fire, causing someone to be trapped, causing somebody not to be able to get into a structure to rescue a life. So it's important that code enforcement and fire work hand in hand together, as we have here. So whereas code enforcement officers provide for the safety, health, and welfare of citizens living in communities throughout the United States, through the enforcement of building, zoning, housing, environmental, property maintenance, and other codes and ordinances. And whereas code enforcement officers often have a challenging and demanding role and often do not receive the recognition for the job they do in improving living and working conditions for residents and businesses of local communities. Whereas code enforcement officers often have a highly visible role in the community they serve and are dedicated, high quality professionals who prevent neighborhood deterioration, enhance and ensure safety, and preserve property values through knowledge and application of housing, zoning, food safety, and nuisance codes and ordinances. Whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the code enforcement officers in Pearland and throughout our country, and extend our heartfelt thanks for their continued commitment to public service. Whereas the American Association of Code Enforcement wants to recognize and honor code enforcement officers and professionals across the United States and bring awareness to the importance of code enforcement to communities nationwide. It is important to celebrate and to recognize the participation and dedication of code enforcement officers who have continued their time and expertise to the improvement of communities throughout the United States. Now, therefore, I, Kevin Cole, by the power vested in me as the mayor of this city, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as National Code Compliance Month. And I'm just going to ask you to be in compliance. Help them out. Give them a break this week, this month. Be in compliance. Mow your grass. There you go. Mow your weeded lot. But all jokes aside, who's going to receive this? Chief Gerardo. There you go. You want to say a few words? No. You want to say anything on top of it? All right. All right. Good deal. All right. Well, come on. Up in here. We're going to do it. There you go.
You look for a snack.
Perfect. There you go. You take that. Thank you so much for what you do every day, Chief. We'll get we good.
Yes, sir. You can start in 3, 2, 1.
All right. We'll call to order this City Council regular meeting agenda for Monday, October the 9th, 2023 at 6:39 p.m. If you would all please rise, I'll lead us in an invocation followed by our pledges by Councilmember Camcar. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just want to come and stop for just a second on the front end of this meeting and invite you to be a part of these proceedings. Father, we come and ask you to give us your wisdom, your mind, your eyes, and your sight, not only for the business of this city, but for the hearts and minds of the people in this community. That we may listen to them, that we may come in here and represent them. May we come in here and do the business of the people of this great city. Father, we were always remiss. I would be remiss if I did not lift up Eddie to you. I ask you specifically, Father, if you'll reach down and heal him, heal the injuries that he sustained last week, the other 3 firefighters and the injuries that they took on. I ask you, Father, to heal them. And as always, Father, put a hedge of protection around all of our first responders from fire, EMS, police, and even our public works folks who are out on the highways. Protect them, guide them, but most of all, give them the opportunity to go home at night. Father, again, we thank you and we praise you for what you do for us, the opportunity that you give us to serve this great community. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Allegiance to the flag state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, thank you for that. We will do, as we move forward in our agenda, roll call and certification of quorum. Madam Secretary, I'll certify we have a quorum as all members are present and accounted for. Thank you guys for that. Before we move to citizens' comment, I'd like to take a quick point of personal privilege. Ron, give us a quick update on drought conditions and our drought strategy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Currently, we are still under an extreme drought. It has downgraded a bit, but we do have drought conditions, and we will order the stage 2 restrictions lifted tomorrow morning, effective immediately. So we will revert back to stage 1, which would be a voluntary conservation.
That's a move in the right direction. So it's still voluntary restrictions, but not the mandatory, which is good. That means our production is coming down, which is very, very good for all involved. Secondly, I would like to wish Councilmember Cade a happy birthday. Today is her birthday, so let's give her a round of applause. We got to show that we love you every once in a while. So there you go. And the last thing is just a real personal opportunity. Had our daughter gave birth to her first baby last week, and so Sage Michael Boone was born last Tuesday at about 10 o'clock p.m. Here's the unique part about this, and Madam Secretary, I'm going to ask for a favor on this, because 28 years ago on October the 3rd, my daughter Caitlin was born. I was a sitting council member, and I had the opportunity to read her name into the record as part of my activities that week. We don't do that anymore. And 28 years later, on October the 3rd, on her birthday, she gave birth to Sage Michael. So I'd like the record to reflect that I read Sage Michael Boone's name into the record, so she can carry it forward in her baby book forevermore. My daughter actually has a copy of those minutes with her name written there in it. So I'm just going to call it my mayoral privilege and ask for that to be put in there. So thank you for that. All right, with that, we'll move to citizens' comments. Any general comments?
Yes, Mayor, we have one.
Okay.
Mr. Davis, if you'd make your way to the podium, state your name and address. We'll give you 3 minutes to speak. And thank you for coming out this evening.
Likewise, happy birthday, Councilwoman Cade. Jimmy Davis, 5000 Combsville Street. Council, we're approaching the end of 2023, another year that the public had been told AMI would be finished by the end of the year. We're told it'd be completed by the end of 2020, then 2021, then 2022, then 2023. Now the question is, will it be completely finished? Will we have this app where we can monitor our usage before summer 2024? Some of you have been up there on the dais more than one term. You've been talking about AMI your entire time on the dais. You've let the people down and you failed us. I've not seen a single agenda item this year where AMI was the topic. Maybe I missed one. I guess council and staff are on to spending bigger bucks, being behind on new projects like the surface water treatment plant. A year ago, we were told it'd be producing water by September for Shadow Creek Ranch. I asked, how many years behind schedule is this one going to end up being? The city has stage 2 mandatory drought restrictions, thankfully going away tomorrow, with threats of fines up to $2,000 for a single violation. But every day the city has violated that ordinance, running ornamental fountains around 288, watering the grass around that area in the middle of the afternoon. Was the city too good to follow its own rules? Was it rules for me, but not for thee? Do we just exist to pay ever-increasing taxes and more debt so the city can have nice things? We have a $200 million surface water treatment plant that has far more capacity than needed. And we're still going to pay Houston the same monthly fee for water that covers consumption 75% of the year. We're paying more for the same water. Is the goal to run all of us who aren't successful business owners out of the city so we can be replaced with more business owners? Each year, council makes it harder for more people to live here. You set priorities that inflate budgets and take on more debt and say staff is just doing what you tell them. You're the ones pricing people out of Pearland. You're Houstoning our Pearland. And to our newly elected officials, this ain't on you. I have a friend who's a Democrat who once told me they wished the Republicans in Pearland were about what Republicans are supposed to be about. Smaller government, less spending, lower taxes. Said there's a term for someone who says they're Republican but doesn't demonstrate conservative values. It's called a rhino. Hope the people running for the seats in December, they aren't going to rubber stamp all the spending that's put in front of them. But after watching what's got on the last 6 years or so, oh no, I hope they surprise me. To those of you who are serving your first term, I hope you'll stand up next year and say, we need to freeze the budget. And if you can't, maybe you need to ask if you should run for re-election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. That was the last. We only had one tonight? Okay. With that, we'll move to public hearing number 1. Public hearing, a third public hearing and commencement of a second 30-day comment period for FY 2024 Community Development Block Grant CDBG Annual Action Plan. Spending priorities for the allocation of $466,162 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development CDBG award number B23MC 480400. With that, Joel, I'll turn it to you for your report as we move towards into this public hearing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and our apologies in advance for having to come back for an additional public hearing. We have had a request from HUD to add an additional layer of citizen participation in our process once again, but we're going to adhere to that and quickly get through this and check the appropriate box associated with that request. So I'll move through the slides quickly, but make sure I cover the salient topics that we need to make sure we get out there. So this is our 17th annual action plan. That means for 17 of the past years, we've been an entitlement jurisdiction and have received community development block grant funds directly from HUD. And prior to that, we were receiving our funds from Brazoria County, as many of you know, as a subrecipient. But for the last couple of decades, we've gotten our funds directly from HUD. And that occurs when you become an entitlement jurisdiction and reach that 50,000 population. You get your own money and get to control it and manage it as such to the extent that you comply with those rules. And the rules that apply to the program are largely in 24 CFR. The 570 aspect of that CFR is really where the CDBG work comes in, and that's where we spend most of our time in the regulatory world. We do have some uniform administrative requirements we have to adhere to that all federal grants have to comply with, and that's in your 2 CFR Part 200. Program purpose, again, as we cover each time we do this, is to remove slum and blight. We also have the responsibility to meet one of 3 HUD national objectives. We can use these funds to address an urgent need, as if there were a natural disaster or some other major catastrophic event that would occur in the community. We can spend along those lines, and of course to serve low to moderate income households and individuals in the city. HUD distributes funds in a couple of different ways in the entitlement world. We fall into one of 2 formulas. There's Formula A and Formula B. Formula B is really one that's designed for older, more metropolitan-sized cities because they tend to have more pre-1940s housing. So they get a few extra points in that scoring rubric, and that is why you see cities like Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles receive millions and millions of dollars over the entitlements that get the Formula A fund. So we're a newer city, and I think we lose those points and of course get a lower allocation, and because of our lower population as well. Our action plan is really kind of predicated on 3 characteristics. As far as the content that we put into that, we do a local housing assessment and a local economic assessment and make sure we're up to date on describing what our community looks like. as well as those local conditions that play into how we decide to use the funds. And we want to make sure that our local public facilities, social service agencies, and the infrastructure and facility improvements that are priorities can get consideration when we decide on how to use our funds. And we put that all into the mix and come up with the action plan based on the regulated aspects of a requirement or an action plan. Talked about low to moderate income at the household and individual level. This chart pretty much tells you what it looks like to be able to qualify for HUD funds. And for a family of 4 in Pearland for FY23, the income limit for a family of 4 maxes out at $89,100, and that's 80% of the metropolitan statistical area income, which right now is $111,400 for Pearland. For projects that serve neighborhoods and larger areas, we get into the service area aspect of how we can deliver funds. And this map shows us where our target area is in Pearland. And these block groups represent 51% or more of low to moderate income. And in the case of Pearland, we actually qualify for 45% or more. So our entitlement jurisdiction can use these funds in areas that are a little bit lower in low to moderate income population. And that's because we have a very low poverty rate and a very low unemployment rate as well. So we get a little bit of a break. And we're referred to as an exception criteria grantee in that regard. So one of the things that HUD has asked us to address is the issue of spending timeliness. This graph kind of demonstrates the historical funding that's come to Pearland, and the areas in orange on those bars represent funds that we have not spent yet. They've been allocated to the city, but we've either got slow projects or activities that are multi-year in nature and scope, and therefore they tend to carry over. And we also received a large allocation of unexpected funds during the COVID years in the form of a CARES Act distribution in 21, and that's why you see overlapping allocations there. You've got the 428,077, that was our regular entitlement allocation, but then we got another $695,000 that we programmed towards COVID-related activities. To today, the allocation numbers that we put into some of those projects are unwarranted because COVID is now behind us, and some of the things we put into rental assistance and some other activities were not needed. So we will need to reprogram those dollars into a project that's more befitting of what our current community conditions look like. We're in the process of doing that. So if you've watched our action planning process, you've seen the NAP Center project, for example, as one that's required additional funds to be able to be allocated in order to complete that project. And because the city doesn't receive a large amount of money annually, we've had to essentially stack annual allocations of funds into that project so that it can have the money it needs to come to completion. So that's one of the aspects of spending timeliness that kind of has a natural impact on our untimeliness, but we've also got some other projects that we need to speed up and pick up on and get our money out on the street appropriately. And we'll be doing that with some reprogramming of dollars, some of which will require us to come back to council this fiscal year. Others we can handle administratively, depending on the amounts and the impact on a change in an action plan that we're having to make an adjustment to. So with all that said, we've got to pick up the pace, and we've submitted a spending timeliness plan to HUD that identifies how we plan to do that. And I believe that NAP Center project is the one that's going to carry us through to compliance. But right now, staff-wise, we're just doing everything we can to exert pressure on the implementing departments and our partners in other areas to kind of get this ball rolling at a faster pace. So we're confident we'll be able to do that. And the next test date for our spending timeliness will be August the 2nd of 2024. And again, we commit that we'll make sure we've spent those funds by then. So a little bit of a challenge for us, but many entitlements our size face it and faced it during the COVID aftermath, just because it's difficult sometimes for us to spend the funds in the low to moderate income aspects that bigger cities have larger target areas and a larger need when it comes to issues facing poverty and those kinds of situations. So with that said, we'll move on and begin to wrap this up. Just kind of a reminder of what our last couple of years of allocations look like, which are where we're in the second year of our 5-year consolidated plan. And so we're looking at 466, 162 to come to us this fiscal year. And within the next 30 to 45 days, we'll see those funds get allocated in the form of a grant agreement between the city and HUD. Just to recap on our proposed spending plan, at 466, 162, the lion's share, again, will go to the NAP Center. So we'll make sure that that project has the funds available to build out on the robust expansion plan for the patio area. And the plan is to incorporate a pavilion-style covered structure that will allow that roughly 2,500 square foot space to be of use during all seasons, instead of kind of right now it's limited in its ability to serve the population that we have there. So we'll make sure we've got something that's got some degree of climate control and some other features that increase the enjoyment and activity space that group can benefit from. And we're also going to continue housing rehab work. We've got some funds that were allocated several years ago that are still available for us to spend on construction. So we'll continue to use those dollars as they carry over, but we do need to invest in the staffing there. So we've got an administrative staff person that oversees that program on a day-to-day basis. And this $70,000 you see highlighted is what's going to cover that person's personnel costs. And then you've got the traditional social services work. We give out funds to about 3 agencies every year, and they're doing good work in that regard. So we'll continue with those agencies' work, and they're in our 5-year consolidated plan, and we still have some goal setting to meet that's long-term. So we want to make sure that we don't make any changes until after the consolidated plan years are expiring. Last thing I want to touch on is the program support dollars. You know, we annually kind of toy around with, do we need this much money to handle program oversight and administration? And in the past, there have been some years where we've scaled that down. This year, we are going to suggest that we continue to max that out at the 20%, because we've got a lot of general program administration activities that we need to cover, including the spending timeliness role. And we've got additional staff. My grant manager here has been with us for a few months now, Michael Rollinson. He's been doing good work, and we need to make sure we've got the resources to keep our administrative wheels turning. So with that said, we're proposing to max that out at the $93,233 that's in the table. And just to specify, we're giving our social services sub-recipient grants out to the neighborhood center, rental assistance, gathering outreaches, doing aftercare services for young people in the community, and Counseling Connections will continue to do the mental health counseling work that they've been doing for the last year. And just to wrap up, we've got a couple of key date bullet points. Again, one thing that was asked of us was to host another 30-day public comment period. I apologize, it says starts today. That actually began September the 21st. So we put that notice in the paper on the 20th, and that 30-day period will run through October 20th, 2023. On the 21st, we're going to resubmit this action plan to HUD and tell them to move forward with our allocation. So with that said, that wraps up the staff report, and we're available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Joel. With that, this is a public hearing, so we'll turn to the public. Those wishing to address this public hearing can go to the podium, give your name and address for the record, 3 minutes to speak. Second attempt, those wishing to address this public hearing. Third and final time, those wishing to address this CDBG block grant public hearing can go to the podium and give your name and address for the record. Seeing no one moving in that direction, let's turn it over to council for questions, comments, and concerns. Anyone? Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. Joel, on the housing rehab, we recently had an inquiry where I think you responded and said, you know, there was criteria for unlocking those dollars. Where is that published, or like how is that process in the administrative piece of the budget? For instance, is there like marketing in there, or is it just the direct admin?
So we've got a nice amount of money to play around with there. So there's probably $100,000 that has not been allocated in the past that on a regular basis, if we need to draw for that to do outreach, provide consulting opportunities. For example, we have to engage in some general and professional services every once in a while, lead paint testing, abatement, and things like that. So the resources are there for that. We found that as far as outreach is concerned, the newspaper works best. So running an ad in the Reporter News has probably resulted in more traction than anything else we've done. And I think the population that needs that work, that's what where they're getting their information from. So
Is that done on a regular basis, or is that something?
yes, sir. We do that probably semi-annually. And when the program first began, we kind of, we're running those ads on a regular basis, and I think our responses were overwhelming the funds we had. So we found this sweet spot that kind of says a semi-annual ad or maybe a quarterly ad might produce the results we need to keep pace with the amount of money we have.
So I've received probably directly in the last month 3 different cases where people reached out and asked if we had programs like this, and I had referred them to other organizations, nonprofits in the area, that they weren't able to get a response from them. And so they were kind of saying, well, what is the city's role in this? If we had something kind of like, I guess the Pearland Neighborhood Center does some of this type of stuff, correct? But
They don't do this, but they do the rental assistance piece, and everybody is equipped to refer back. So if there's an applicant at one of those agencies that needs help on a housing rehab issue, they know to come back to the city and reach out to Monica.
that's kind of what my question was. Do we have other organizations on the ground that are kind of doing this and helping us to,
Yes,
get
sir.
these
We've got some
funds
partnerships
used?
out there that help us in that regard. And I think COVID slowed us down again because we stopped going into people's homes during those years.
Yeah.
But now that we've picked back up, things are starting to pick up a little more speed.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll get with you after this, but I appreciate all the thoughtfulness you got going in here. And, it sounds like, we just need to be better at spending money faster. So,
Yeah, I think we get bogged down in the regs and some of those
Yeah.
red tape issues, but we're working out of those.
Well, I think, we knew going into the NAP Center that it was going to be multi-year. So we knew we weren't going to be
Yeah.
spending all that at one time. It was gonna be multi-year. Construction will go a lot quicker than,
Yes, sir. So we just went out for design and hired a contractor, and they're beginning their work. They got a notice to proceed last Friday.
so we had to set that money aside to be able to go do it.
Absolutely.
Which is good. And as Mayor Pro Tem just added to me, that's a building and that's a service that gets used a lot. Yeah, lots of folks there on a daily basis. Mr. Camcar?
Thank you, sir. Joel, can we go back to the administration discussion and the programming discussion? And we talked about the staffing required on the admin side. Is that done in-house, or do we have a per-hour entity that deals with this?
No, we're all in-house as far as our program administration. Every once in a while, we may need a consultant or a service out there, a subscription service, to give us access to data or some type of spatial analysis work. But for the most part, the people are all city staff that work.
Was this supplemented through the last budget? So was it it last year or this year where we added support to your team on that? I remember
Excuse
we
me,
did
can
add
you
some.
repeat that question?
Did we add somebody for your team for support? Was that in the last budget or in this most recent one?
That's this fiscal year.
And so is this going to defer some of those, or are those kind of two independent buckets in terms of allocations of dollars and things?
We're both being paid by that out of that same allocation. If that's what you're asking.
And so do we anticipate this or a program amount of 450,000 being around here for next year? Do we anticipate getting that?
Yeah, I think that's probably where we are. We're going to stay around just below 500,000, and I think the formula just kind of surreptitiously keeps us there. If we go over 500,000, we become subject to some different rules and a different spending opportunity. But I don't think that that's appropriate for our city. So we're happy where we are.
So I just want to, and I don't want to belabor the point. Thank you for the team letting me have this. So next year, the staffer that we added to augment the team, it's most likely going to be paid out of this programming administration, out of next year's allocation as well.
Sure, in part. Yeah, there are other grants that help us meet the
All right,
ends.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we will thank you, Joel, for that. We will close this docketed public hearing number 1. and move to public hearing number 2. So, Martin, I'll turn it over to you if you'll read into the record the reason for the public hearing and then move into your staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. On for public hearing number 2, this is a request by Stephen Hussman of Hussman Architecture, PLLC, applicant on behalf of ERS RE Holdings, owner, for approval of a conditional use permit for an office within the light industrial district. This is on approximately 2.0923 acres of land, generally located east of 4300 Rice Dryer Road. So as mentioned, this is for an office use. The future land use shows this property as public, semi-public, and that we had one person call out at the P&Z meeting through phone being in favor of this project. So you can see the aerial and zoning map. This is showing the M1. And to the south of the project, you've got the Tractor Supply, and south and east, you've got ERS's main building. The public, semi-public, future land use designation is shown here. This is a known error with our future land use map, and it is an error that is being fixed with the upcoming comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan shows that the upcoming comprehensive plan shows that this property will be a commercial center, which would be in line with the proposed office use. So again, looking at the uses of the properties around, this is a little bit of a dated aerial now, but all of the buildings on site, these 2 or 3, were removed, and then there are general warehouse uses on both the west and north, and then some undeveloped property that is to the east. And then the Tractor Supply store is just due south. And if you'll note, I'm showing the north arrows on here because on the following slides we're going to change positions. But that's after we go through a little bit of history. So this property was annexed into the city in 1959. It had about 32,000 square feet in manufacturing buildings with a little bit of office, constructed in 1981. And those buildings were demolished in 2022. And the property recently was platted in June of this year. Again, you can see that the site has been brought down and is ready for redevelopment. So as mentioned, we're going to shift the plan. North is now to the right hand of the screen. So ERS's main property is above us and over where my cursor is. So this is their proposed site for development. The gray box is where the office is going to be, as a parking field out in front, and then some area for additional storage towards the rear. And this is their proposed landscape plan that came in with the applicant's design set. This does not include the staff recommendations that we'll go through in the following slides. So this is one of their proposed renderings showing the office space. And this is a set of elevations for the project. And then this meets all of the criteria for approval of a conditional use permit and was met with a positive recommendation out of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Staff did recommend 2 conditions for the exterior facade and for some additional screening. Those 2 conditions are listed here. Basically, condition 1 sets the facade materials to what is being proposed within the applicant's packet. And condition number 2 provides for a continuous vegetative screen that is between 6 and 8 feet tall at the southeast and east property boundary, extending from where their proposed drainage is along the east property line, as shown in the applicant's packet. And essentially what we're looking to have is to have this area screened off because there are 2 commercial sites that are to the bottom of the screen here. And we want to make sure that those areas are screened from view from the adjacent sites. And as mentioned, those are 2 conditions that were recommended by staff and then approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and will require council to add them into the exhibit or into the resolution. With that said, Mayor, I'll pass back to you.
All right, thank you, Martin. Is the applicant present? Do you have a presentation or just here to answer questions? Wonderful. Thank you for being here tonight. We'll move forward. Those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request can go to the podium, give your name and address for the record. 3 minutes to speak. Second attempt, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. And third and final time, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Seeing no one moving in that direction, will it open up for questions, comments from City Council? Mr. Berry?
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Martin, help me out here for a second. You mentioned earlier that this particular parcel was zoned public/semi-public.
The future land use designation, so not the zoning of the property. The zoning of the property is light industrial.
Okay, that's why we have to have the cub then. Okay.
Ms. Kate?
I have a question for the applicant, or maybe Martin, maybe you know the answer. The 2 conditions you had, the staff conditions, they were a couple of slides over. Right there. Did the applicant agree to those?
So we presented these at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the applicant was there and agreed at that time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Carbone?
Thank you, Mayor. Martin, can you pull up the aerial? And I guess right there, show us what the additional proposed landscaping is in relation to the site.
So the required landscaping is against Rice Dryer Road here. Their proposed building is going to be about where my cursor is. They've got an outdoor storage area that is in this area, essentially where the old building was. There are 2 lots that front onto Main Street, and what we're proposing is to have this area have additional screening, so that way you're not able to see into where their storage area is, and also to help beautify the view onto those sites.
All right.
That's why the north arrow was a little tricky.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make a point of that.
Yeah. I mean, if the applicant's okay with it, I'm fine, but I mean, this is light industrial area and just a little bit of upgrade for what's there, as you can see on the aerial. So, but since they're fine, I'll go along with it.
Mr. Camcar?
Thank you, sir. Can we pull up the plan again, just the proposed plan? And while we're doing that, was there any issues with tree compliance on this application?
So as you can see, this site has been cleared of everything. So there are no trees right now. All trees will be an improvement to the site.
Good to know. Not another site with not another issue. What about the next one, the one that you're proposing to make the applicant do, assuming a build out?
Do you mind rephrasing that?
The projected build out plan with its landscaping. The next one, it's the one that has the little circles for the trees. There we go. Was there any issues professed on this plan with its current layout? And I'm not talking about the road pattern. I'm just talking about the screening piece to this.
No, this meets the minimum requirements of the Unified Development Code.
There was no arguments or discussions or animosity about that?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Ms. Cade?
Do we usually require landscaping for light industrial like that? I can't.
On the roadway?
On the
Yeah, this is all required.
just because it's on Rice Dryer?
So there are required street trees. There's also required trees because the city has some covenants that are tied to this property. So there are heightened improvements that are required above just the base M1 zoning district.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we will close this public hearing, move to new business item number 1. Mr. Carbone, if you would present it, please, and go ahead and add the 2 additional requirements into your motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action resolution R 2023-CUP 23-15, inclusive of the 2 staff proposed amendments. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We've had staff report as well as questions, comments from council. So, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Kamkar?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Barry?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Koza?
Aye.
The motion passes 7 to 0.
All right. With that, we'll move to the consent agenda. Mr. Kamkar, if you would present the consent agenda, items A through U, with the exception of T, as in Tom, and U.
Mayor, sorry, can we get P too?
P?
Yes.
T? Okay.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through U, with the exceptions of T, U, and P. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Kamkar?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Barry?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
The motion passes 7 to 0.
All right, we'll move to matters removed from the consent agenda. Item P is in put. How's that? Mayor Pro Tem Koza, if you would present that, please.
Certainly, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2023-248. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This project authorizes a professional service contract with Joyner Architects for the design services associated with the emergency supply warehouse project in the estimated amount of $184,131. So in the aftermath of natural disasters, particularly Harvey and Winter Storm Uri, the incident management team has requested publicly needed items such as water for distribution. However, the state's ability to provide such items can see up to a 72 to 96 hour delay. And so it's proposed to reallocate FEMA funds that were allocated to a different project to building this design warehouse, this emergency supply warehouse. This is an 80-20 match of funds provided by FEMA. And Joel Hardy has additional information if anybody needs it.
All right, I'll go to Mr. Patel first. He's the one that pulled it.
Thank you, Mayor. So Joel, a couple of questions. When I was reading it, the package, it said this was going to be a metal building. And I was not on the city council when you guys voted for the water building. And then I believe we had to make a change order for TDI inspection. Do you recall that?
No, sir, I don't.
So I believe they came back and the building wasn't TDI certified for Texas windstorm. And I want to make sure when I read this looked like a metal building. If you guys are building this for emergency purpose, I would assume. I just want to make sure that this was going to be hurricane rated. And the engineering firm, I think when we did the water plant was from Abilene, I believe, Mayor. Maybe I'm wrong, but I wasn't on city council back then. And they weren't aware of the windstorm requirements or engineering. And so I know we got hit with a change order. Is the architect firm here today?
Yes, they are, and I can assure you, based on the FEMA funding, that we have to meet those requirements as well. So, but we've got that incorporated into the proposed scope of work, and Chad Joyner from Joyner Architects is here, so he can get more specific if need be. But we've got that very set of specifications articulated in the design requirement, so that's part of that scope of work.
I'm just curious, what's the wind load you guys are going to design it to?
You can go to the podium, Chad.
Yeah, Chad, go to the podium. Go ahead and give your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
So I'm Chad Joyner with Joyner Architects. We're off at 700 Rockmead in Kingwood. To answer your question, we are obligated to a type 2 wind load for this area. So we have a firm that's a consultant of ours that helps us oversee that the documents meet the wind speeds to be compliant. So the building will be compliant.
Remind me, I'm sorry, level 2, is that less than 120 or is that between 120 and 130?
So yeah, that's above 120.
So our facility is going to be 140.
140, okay.
Yes, sir.
That's all I had. Thank you so much.
Sure. You bet.
Question? Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Kosa,
Aye.
Member Carbone,
Aye.
Member Kamkar,
Aye.
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Cade,
Aye.
Member Berry,
Aye.
Member Patel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
With that, Mr. Hernandez, would you item T, please?
Yes, sir. Consideration possible action resolution number R2023-253. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report?
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution renews a software maintenance contract with Central Square Technologies in the amount of $378,599 and change. This contract covers software maintenance to the police department's CAD, RMS, and jail management system, as far as our TCIC and NCIC messaging, as well as software maintenance for the Track It program.
All right, I'll go to Ms. Cade. You're ask for this to be pulled.
Thank you, Mayor. I looked at all these QRS&T together is about $1.2 million for IT stuff, but T really stood out to me because of Track It on there. We're paying for another year for a Track It license and a Track It CD and other things on here. When we were supposed to have replaced that with something we bought over a year ago, CityWorks, I thought. So I'm confused why we're paying for two.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask Joshua, if you can put the project schedule up for Track It. So we did contract with New Edge to do the implementation for CityWorks, and you can see that did start in April of 2023, and there's various stages of that. Currently, we are in meetings with our different departments for configurations for that software. And the next stages will include legacy data mapping. So all of the data that we've brought in over the years historically into the Track It software needs to be downloaded into the new software, and it doesn't happen seamlessly. But we need our community development and other departments to be able to utilize that information without having to continue to maintain the Track It software in order to access it. And you can see that the legacy data sign-off will happen sometime in the middle of next year. Custom report building is going on, and we're expecting the training and go live to occur next August. It is a very, very involved process where we need to keep our legacy data and train our employees on how to use it. If there's additional information, I don't know, John, if you have any additional information.
The way software goes, I mean, by the time we get CityWorks up and running, it's going to be obsolete. I don't see the point at this time. But anyway, and also on here, Encode court system interface. Encode was on S. I don't know why it's also. But
So, and I don't know, John, do you have any information as to why Encode might be included in both of these items?
OSI.
On S and T, that's why.
Tyler, Encode's our court technology software. And
So
that's Tyler.
there's parts of Encode that are dealt with by Tyler Technologies, but because it's court software, it has to interface with OSSI so that our traffic tickets and so on and so forth can be downloaded directly into their system rather than having to re-enter them. And so that patch is a Central Square item as well. So that item is going to be under both of them. Different aspects of Encode are under each one.
I got you. All right, thank you, Ron.
All right, any other questions, comments? Mr. Hernandez?
As a follow-up to that, John, did you want to maybe touch on software? I mean, the issue of obsolescence maybe isn't what it used to be these days with so many cloud-based platforms. Is that maybe your take on it as well, or?
Yeah, we just received CityWorks about a year and a half ago, and we've been using it. Now we've decided that, hey, let's go bring it over into another department, and now this is what's happening in the implementation. I see CityWorks being here for a long time. There's nothing that's going to be obsolete in a couple of years on CityWorks. It's using the Esri technology for the mapping. Plus, it has a lot of other, and the research. There's a lot more research on CityWorks also. So I believe it's going to be here for a while.
I think my point is, I was still on planning and zoning when we were talking about CityWorks going to Trackit going to CityWorks. So we've had CityWorks a while, and it's still in process.
Yes, ma'am. We just never did have CityWorks go into code. It was CityWorks in the public works sector. Now it's just starting to go and replace this Trackit this year.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Never-ending process. Last call. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Cade,
No.
Member Berry,
Aye.
Member Patel,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Koza,
Aye.
Member Carbone,
Aye.
Member Kamkar.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1.
All right, with that, Ms. Cade, would you present item U, please?
Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2023-254, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This item formally accepts the restatement required in the city's annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 2022 as presented by the accounting firm Forvis. Our Deputy Finance Director, Kendra Murphy, has been working with them on the resolution to this item, and she's here to answer any questions you might have.
All right, with that, Mr. Kamkar, you pulled this item. I'll give you the question first.
This is, I think, an ongoing item, and I was just curious, we had a Forvis person here as part of that process.
More than likely not.
Great. Sounds like we'll be retaining them. Can we just get a quick summation on just what we encountered? I know some of this is more bucket counting than anything else, but I just want to make sure that we address.
So the great thing is the bottom line numbers were all correct and all fine. We did note that in our water and sewer fund, there was a misstatement of our restricted and unrestricted funds. Essentially what that means is some of our bond funds were counted as unrestricted funds. Indeed, our impact fees, and based on our ordinance for impact fees and based on bond funds also, they should have been restricted. And so we had to go through and they did the restatement for those.
But just to be clear,
Yes,
it
sir.
wasn't losing money, finding more money. It was just literally how we categorize existing dollars in the fund.
Absolutely. Your bottom line numbers did not change. It's just recategorizing them accordingly.
I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I know it's not an easy process, but rebuilding trust is a one step at a time, one brick at a time, one step at a time item, and this is just one of those things. So I appreciate you guys working hard on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kendra, real quick for the record, this was the restatement was as a result that I believe Forbes made a mistake in the original audit. So it was caught somehow and they had to go back in and do a restatement. Is that correct?
You're correct.
So this wasn't a mistake on our end. It was a mistake on the audit's end. So anyway, we got that hopefully put to bed with a vote here and we can move forward. Any other questions, comments?
This is my annual reminder that this is not South Africa. This is the United States of America. The acronyms are confusing enough, and when we learn them and we go change them, just thank you. I've said my piece. It's the last time you'll have to hear it.
Yeah, the accounting gurus decided to change the acronym about a year ago. So last call. Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Camcar?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, with that, we'll move forward in our agenda. Other matters, there are none. Mayor, council issues for city council discussion. There were none presented. Moving to executive session, under Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, personnel matters regarding city boards and commissions. Section 551.087, economic development negotiations. Section 551.072, deliberations regarding the sale, lease, or exchange of real property. With that, council will retire to executive session at 7:33. All right, City Council returned from executive session at 9:22. With that, we'll move to new business continued. Item number 1, city boards and commissions. We can go ahead and dispense of reappointments for ZBA.
Did you want to do that?
Mr. Mayor, I think we'll bring those back on the next agenda.
So they'll be on the consent agenda of the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So we have no action on new business item number 2. Moving to new business item number 1. New business item number 2, sale, lease, and exchange of real property. Council will take no action.
Yeah, actually, Mayor, I have one motion for that one.
One.
Yeah, this is going to be a recommendation motion authorizing staff to proceed with to purchase property for project 2209 as discussed in executive session.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary will call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Koza,
Aye.
Member Carbone,
Aye.
Member Camcar,
Aye.
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Cade,
No.
Member Barry,
Aye.
Member Patel.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-1.
All right. With that, that completed action number 2, correct?
That's correct.
New business item number 3.
Economic development negotiations. Yes, Mayor, I'd recommend a motion authorizing the city manager or his designee to enter into an amended development agreement with Prospect 2300 as discussed in executive session.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary will call for the vote.
Member Carbone,
Aye.
Member Camcar,
Aye.
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Cade,
Aye.
Member Barry,
Aye.
Member Patel,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Koza.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right. With that, next item, the adjournment at 9:24.